What word can you make shorter by adding 2 letters?
Smaller?
Short. Get it? Because it was short, and then you add 2 letters, and then it's
I had the right idea, but
you were in the
low
ballpark.
hanging fruit there.
Yeah, it was that one was pretty bad. I literally started the show 2 minutes late because I was scrounging for a dad joke, and that's the best I could come up with. I'm a fraud, folks. Welcome back to Brand Coverage. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Pat Gustafson on this beautiful July 22nd evening. We've got a great show for you today. We've got a good amount of news to go through, which we will certainly do and go over the fantasy implications of that. Then we have the return to the show of friend of the show, Austin Ekeler. It was actually an interview that was conducted a couple days ago, but I am premiering it live during this show. And then after that, we will finish up our divisional fantasy football previews with the AFC East. So a good one for you today.
And here's the thing, folks. When I said last week Austin come back on the show, I had no fucking idea this was happening. Like, I found out after last week that this was happening. So what an insane coincidence.
Didn't mean to do that. That was the start of the interview. Insane. Yeah, no, insane coincidence. I heard Pat say that, and then I actually meant to tell him like after the show, before we hop off the stream here, and I didn't. I texted him. I was like, hey, yeah, this is happening. But we've got a great conversation with Austin Ekeler that I'm excited to officially show you guys, and we will get to that soon. But first things first, Pat, we've got plenty of news to go over.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
All right. Rashee Rice, sentenced to 30 days in jail and 5 years probation. The 30 days can be served over any time over those 5 years. So, look, you'll probably never know when he's actually in jail, but theoretically that will have to happen for a total of 30 days over the next 5 years. The surprising part of this, Pat, is that everything up to this point suggested that this was probably not going to happen this season, that there was not going to be any sort of repercussions until maybe mid-season, or at least there probably wouldn't have been any NFL repercussions at all this season. The court stuff might have been figured out during the season, and then the NFL reacts, later on. But because the court part of it was settled, now it is up to the NFL, who waits for those proceedings to go through, to decide what the punishment is going to be for Rashee Rice. Based on history, it seems like it's probably going to be 2 to 6 games, somewhere in that sort of region. Obviously, that is a wide range of how it will affect your fantasy draft strategy. I would say if it's 2 games, it's probably not going to affect that much. I mean, his ADP might go down a couple spots, a round or so, but if you liked him then, you're going to like him after a 2-game suspension. 4 games or 6 games becomes a lot dicier. I think he tumbles several rounds. If it's 6 games, I don't know that I'm drafting Rashee Rice, because you can't put him on your IR. He's going to be suspended. Like, that's not, if you have an IR spot in your league, that is not something you can utilize. So I'll be curious to see. Obviously, we'll be monitoring what happens here. But how are you feeling about the news here?
Well, it's not even that you're wasting a bench spot. It's just more that you're using an early pick, because it's still probably going to be, you're still going to be drafting him where you would draft the starter. I would say probably round 6 or 7, maybe, if that happens. So that's a spot of someone that could be helping you those 4 to 6 weeks. And again, while we always talk about end of year upside, you got to win to get to the playoffs. Right. So if you're drafting a guy that is actively has 0% chance of helping you win, that's a tough sell. I mean, for Xavier Worthy, should this be 4 to 6 games, I think this will bump his ADP pretty significantly.
It was already pretty high, too, for Xavier Worthy. He was a little high for my comfp, so we'll see where this
that's the thing is, we talked about I feel like, bad time again, we talked about this 2 weeks ago when Xavier Worthy kind of just feeling like, more of a boom-bust kind of second option guy on an offense that doesn't pass a ton, to back to now looking at, wow, here were Xavier Worthy's numbers at the end of the year last year when he got more involved in the system without Rashee Rice. Right. And there's no reason to believe that won't happen again. There's still Hollywood Brown, there's still Travis Kelce. There was then, it didn't matter. If Rice is out a significant time, Worthy stock goes way up.
To me, and maybe this is an overreaction, but like, it throws so much cold water on the Chiefs are going to get back to their explosive ways, narrative. And granted, like, I guess, we talked about the fact that they've been working on deep shots or whatever this offseason, supposedly. That's what Matt Nagy said that they've harped on with him and Patrick Mahomes to get back to some of the old Chiefs ways. So I guess maybe if they were working on it, Rashee Rice being out of the picture won't change it if we are to believe that. It's just, if we are trying to believe that Mahomes himself is going to get back to these gaudy sort of touchdown numbers in, this day and age with the NFL, just considering their, I would say, generally scary run game, and now losing Rashee Rice for a period of time, I find it harder to buy in to the idea of like Mahomes doing anything different than what he did last year, at least not in a meaningful way.
And you mentioned their unscary running game. You could also mention their unconventional usage towards the goal line. And who better on the team to run more of these creative plays than Xavier Worthy? Even with Rashee Rice in there, you'd think that's where Xavier Worthy would be making a lot of his money this year. So without that, you're looking at him getting more volume, still with that added upside.
Yeah, it definitely bumps the stock a little bit of Xavier Worthy and certainly Travis Kelce, Pat, who, it's going to be a weird sort of situation to draft a guy who I feel it's as black and white as when Rashee Rice plays, I don't want Travis Kelce. When he doesn't play, I do want Travis Kelce. So it'll be kind of weird if you're drafting Kelce and knowing you have an expiration date on him almost, because that's what it showed last year. But he's back on the menu, at least for the start of the season to me.
If you're kind of going to say fuck it on tight end and know you're going to be kind of in the weeds more, I'd say Kelce's your guy, but he's not going in that range.
Right, and this is only going to make him go even higher.
That's what I mean. I'm still pretty out on him, especially considering that if you're going to take more of a shot at a tight end, give me David Njoku several rounds later, or that kind of player, than someone like Travis Kelce, who was even inconsistent after Rashee Rice was out last year. He had some big weeks, and sure, that'll happen again, but at that value, it's still not for me.
Yeah, I think especially with Andy Reid talking about having to manage Kelce's reps because of his age, because Kelce, isn't going to do it himself. A lot of those things still make you hesitate on him a little bit, but it's still a little bit
season.
Still a little bit more interesting for these other Chiefs pass catchers, but definitely some cold water on the Chiefs as a whole. So we will monitor and wait and see exactly what number the suspension ends up being, because obviously that will dictate a lot of how we react to it. Najee Harris placed on the non-football injury list, Pat. This is getting weird. Because it is sounding more and more severe as time goes on. A, we still don't have a picture of what happened to Najee Harris. B, they're now talking about he's still, undergoing treatment and he's trying to get back on the field. It's an eye injury. If an eye injury is bad enough to keep him off the practice field, Pat, it's his eye. How bad is that? I'm starting to think this is pretty bad, even though it's described as superficial. He is now missing official reps with a new team and ceding work to rookie Omarion Hampton in what we believe to be one of the more sort of contentious running back battles. Obviously, they're both going to be involved no matter what, but this is certainly giving an edge to the exciting rookie here.
Yeah, and you think about it as opposed to like basketball, where you're way more likely to get poked in the eye or hit in the eye. Football, unless someone's being a real dick on the other side of the ball, or like a fucking turf bead pops up into your eye.
And you would imagine he'd have something covering it if he's going to be out there. So the fact he can't even be out there.
That's what I mean. The fact that they must think it's too big of a risk to even do that is concerning. And the more time he misses and the more time Omarion Hampton gets these number one reps, it's only going to skew the scale more and more in Hampton's favor. And I've been sort of, kind of growing on Hampton a bit more in the most recent weeks, even before the night. When we talked about the AFC West a few weeks ago, I was a lot more favorable on him than I was after the draft. And that's only continuing to trend in that direction. We'll have, that's something. God damn it, I almost said it's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But it's something we will have to keep an eye on. Najee will only be able to keep one eye on it. Yep, but if this stays away where, and again, what they get, Nyheim Hines, I think that's just more of a great story than anything. The fact that this guy's leg almost got taken off by a fucking speedboat, was it, or something?
That's right, I forgot about that.
And the fact that he's back, again, he's nothing more than a third down play. I don't see him, even if Harris is out, I don't even, who else is even on that depth? Is Isaiah Spiller?
Kamani Vidal is there.
Oh, your boy Vidal. I would
Hassan
assume
Haskins is there.
I would assume that, if anything, Haskins or Vidal would benefit, but if Omarion Hampton is the guy, I don't think it will matter much, because if he's the guy, he's going to be the fucking guy.
No, I just included the Nyheim Hines thing because it's a testament again to the severity of the Najee Harris thing.
True.
It's like, it's so bad they had to bring in another body here. And I mean, not to look too far ahead, but like, is this a situation where Najee's not going to be playing to start the year? So we will see what happens here. Certainly a boon for the Omarion Hampton stock. Stick with the Chargers here for a second, Pat. Mike Williams retired as soon as Chargers camp opened. I mean, look, he ended up dealing with an injury. I think he wasn't, participating at the start of camp. And I think for him, it's just, I've been doing this shit for too long now. I'm not going to go through another rehab at this age. And I think he's just listening to his body and realizing that, it's just not, there's no point at this point. He's had a full enough career, and he just doesn't want to go through it again, which I totally understand. So this does open the door for a couple guys, not that we were going to be super threatened by Mike Williams, but he was a projected starter. This kind of just confirms and cements that Quentin Johnston will be a thing. To some degree, whether we like it or not, Quentin Johnston's going to play a lot, and probably have some good games. And the other thing it opens the door for is Trey Harris, who, along with basically all the other second-round picks, have reported to camp now. The only one that hasn't is Quinshon Judkins for other reasons. So the second-rounder thing has been sorted out. Trey Harris is in camp. So both these guys now, to me, become very interesting later. Obviously, Trey Harris certainly higher than Quentin Johnston, but interesting later-round picks. I mean, QJ was very serviceable at the end of last year. We talked about it before. Week 18.
Obviously, at the beginning of the year, he had a couple huge weeks to start the year as well.
I mean, he was a popular waiver pickup. I started him a couple times last year. Granted, that was part of the futility of my own roster, but he was not terrible. And then I think it was week 18. He had like 180 yards and 2 touchdowns or something ridiculous. So he'll be a thing. I'm certainly more inclined to go after Trey Harris. I think he's the exciting piece of this. But yeah, Mike Williams is out of the picture.
It is more so, again, kind of just a shame, because the talent was there with Mike Williams. We even saw in, unfortunately, very short spurts. What I believe was like 2-3 years ago, I owned him, and he was really good until he got hurt again that year. And the guy just couldn't stay on the field. And, unfortunately, we'll be looking back on him in a handful of years, talking about him as one of the bigger top 10 overall fantasy busts.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because, really out of his control.
Absolutely. All right, we'll go through a couple more things before we get to the interview. First, Noah Fant was released from the Seattle Seahawks. Really makes Elijah Arroyo interesting, in my opinion. AJ Barner, AJ Barner as well. But you got to think, Pat, that with these rookie mini camps, that Elijah Arroyo showed them enough to be confident enough to release Noah Fant. This is a guy that after he was drafted, they were already talking about lining up all over the field as a receiver. That's in his skill set. Barner, to his credit, actually was relevant at points last year. I recall seeing him on waiver articles, and he was a decent player, had some decent games. However, his skill set is more aligned with a blocking skill set. So Elijah Arroyo will be the one, I think, to benefit most from this, possibly right away. And this is shaping up to potentially be, one of the sort of late round tight end targets with the lack of competition around him. Obviously, you've got JSN and Kupp. I'm not expecting that much from Kupp. JSN, absolutely. But there's certainly some pass game work here up for the taking.
Bobo erasure.
That's the absolute MVS erasure. You're right. I'm sorry.
And, it's hard to not kind of associate these teams with former coaching regimes, because, during the Pete Carroll time, they never really used a lot of tight end after Jimmy Graham left. It was kind of up and down for tight end, and it wasn't really last year under Mike McDonald's first year, but hey, Clint Kubiak offense, maybe they can change that trend. Maybe Elijah Arroyo is the player to change that trend.
Yeah, I could certainly see it. And a couple other quick hits. Again, the second-round picks have all signed. Most of them, at least, other than Judkins, and then Shamar Stewart as a first-rounder has yet to sign. But most of those have been buttoned up now after some initial uncertainty. Terry McLaurin has not reported to camp. Again, just a continuation of a story that we've been monitoring. Trey Hendrickson, sort of less fantasy relevant, but has also not reported to camp. He's actually in Florida. He left the Cincinnati area altogether. So we'll be monitoring these to see if and when these contracts get done. I would assume the McLaurin one does, just because the Commanders have, I think, really no leverage in the situation. They need him around if they're going to be the team that they want to be. Will Levis is done for the season. doesn't affect a whole lot. Anthony Richardson is ready to go for camp to at least be able to compete for that starting job.
Oh.
He is healthy. He's ready to run with the twos. TJ Watt got his extension, and no limitations for Stephon Diggs in a just insane recovery from a torn ACL and whatever the fuck else he did with his knee. He is ready to go seemingly for the start of the season. Now, will he be 100% from an efficiency standpoint? Probably not, but it sure sounds like he's going to be on the field to start the year.
We'll talk about the Patriots later. One more thing we didn't mention, but Jerry Jones saying some choice things about Micah Parsons, and I suppose Dak Prescott catching a bit of a stray in there as well. They need to keep this man away from a microphone, away from the football team. They honestly might just need to institutionalize this man. Like, it's time, Jerry. It's time.
Jerry Jones has to be old enough to where they could create like a fake sort of, not fake football team, but like just make him think he's still talking to the media and still making decisions. And in reality, it's all just like, it's like giving a kid one of those like play ovens or something. Like that's what
the fake lawnmower they were,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you're playing video games and your like 1-year-old wants to play with you, just give him a controller that's turned off, that kind of thing. All right, folks, that does it for our news. We will now get into the Austin Ekeler interview, again conducted a couple days ago. So I'm just going to play it for you guys, and we'll be watching right along with you. So let's get into it. Friend of the show, Austin Ekeler, returns. Special guest today, we have NFL running back, former fantasy RB1, and now I can say all-pro Austin Ekeler joining the show today. Austin, thanks for joining us. Going to be a fun conversation, lighthearted, just a little bit about the Commanders season, a little bit of fantasy football, and then we've got some very special initiative that Austin wants to talk about as well that is super cool and that I know my followers will definitely enjoy as it pertains to fantasy football. But first things first, man, I got to ask you, are you an alien? Because I saw those one-handed pull-ups, and I'm pretty sure I would tear my bicep doing that. So what's the story behind that? Is that an everyday thing? Because that went pretty viral. I mean, was that just a right day, right time kind of thing?
You know, a little bit about my backstory. I basically have like fallen in love with the weight room. Like I am like definitely like gym rat. Like I love to be in the weight room. That is my therapy. And so because of a result of that, you get bored in there and you try new things, you know? So I'm like, you know what? One day I was like, I'm gonna see if I can do a pull-up with one arm. And sure enough, I could do not only one, but I could actually rep it out. And so now that's kind of like my party trick, or at the gym, my gym trick, you know, that I do at the gym. So it was right time. NFL reposted it. Shout out to the NFL, and got some spotlight on that one.
Yeah, you got me wanting to try it, but I'm like, I might have to just
schedule
an appointment in advance with my local walk-in clinic and/or emergency room if I were to attempt that.
I should have put a disclaimer on that one. Do not try this at home. But,
right, exactly. All right, I got to ask you, how was last season just being part of the season the Commanders had? It was really, you know, I'm sure there's obviously a lot of confidence in your locker room internally, but it was really the surprise team of the season. Nobody thought the Commanders were going to do what they did. Nobody thought they were going to get to the NFC Championship game. I think if you went to someone before the season and said, hey, Washington's going to win 12 games and be a game away from the Super Bowl, they would have looked at you like you were insane. So what was it like being a part of such a crazy and, from at least the outside, unexpected season like that?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of emotion that goes into the game from the outside perspective because of, hey, you're looking at past seasons, you're looking at what's going and formulating. And so there's a lot of uncertainty because new coaches, like 60 new players on the 90-man roster, new ownership. And so a lot of new news. So it's kind of like, oh, let's see how they can get through. But from an internal standpoint, like we have a job to do. Like we have to go out there. We're trying to win, and we have to do everything we can to actually do that. And so for us on the internal, you know, with Dan Quinn, our head coach, he established very early that that's why we were here. And also we're going to build this thing that he goes into his brotherhood, this brotherhood concept of us being together, being gelled together. And, some stats came out about us being the oldest team in the league. Well, it's not just that we're old. We have a lot of guys that have played a lot of ball, you know, right. And so what comes with that is a lot of veteran leadership. And so when you put all that together in the same room, it's pretty easy to build the culture around and then throw, an NV or a offensive player of the year, Jayden Daniels, in there, and we, continue to be on the rise. And so we're looking forward to this year. But yeah, it was a lot of news, but a lot of guys that have been around a lot, and so it helped us put that together.
No, it was an awesome season to follow. Certainly unexpected from my point of view, but I mean, not surprising that you guys had that belief from the beginning. Now, I want to ask you personally, just how are you feeling after that season? Because obviously, a scaled back sort of role from what you were doing with the Chargers, but a huge bounce back year in terms of just efficiency. I would venture and say health as well, even though you had the concussion issues, but like it seemed like you were moving, pretty good last year. So how was it for you just to have a season like that, just coming off the season prior?
Yeah, there was no clips of me, hobbling down the sideline, versus Green Bay. So I guess I'll take that as a win. It takes one clip, man, one clip, and then that's your whole brand. Apparently, that's how the internet works nowadays. But no, for me, yeah, feeling really good. Continuing to keep my health at the most importance for me, and then being back in that kind of split role definitely helps longevity, helps me feel more efficient. And I kind of revert back to, when I was playing with Melvin Gordon, it was that same type of backfield. And that was some of the most efficient times of me playing football. And so back in the same scenario with my head coach then is now my running back coach now. So a lot of familiarity right there. But yeah, feeling good and looking forward to year number 9 coming up. It's kind of wild. It's been this long.
And again, I mentioned it off the top, but you're an all-pro now. So, like, what does that mean to you? Of course, it was as a kick returner, but, like, how is that, what does that mean to you to be able to be in that conversation? Honestly, you clearly embraced a role like that to a point where it got that sort of recognition.
Heck yeah, man. I think my position as a player has never been like the traditional kind of positioning. And what I mean by that is, when you think of a running back, you're thinking, oh, this guy is going to be able to, he's going to run. He's going to be 1,000 yards. Like, for me, I've been more of a hybrid in my roles, and not only in the running back position, but also early special teams, was playing special teams, and also like the backup running back for my first 2 years. And so kind of just been an all utility type player. And so it was kind of funny to actually finally crack into, because I haven't been all pro either, a pro bowler as well. So to finally crack into one of those accolades has been awesome. And, never would have thought it would have come from, my first time ever doing kick return.
Right. No, I think definitely something to be said for that. Super cool. Let's move into some fantasy football topics here. Obviously, you have been a big supporter of fantasy football for many years now, and that was why you were initially on my podcast a little over a year ago, I think, at this point. And we'll get into, again, the charity draft fantasy stuff that you are spearheading. But first things first, I want to ask, last time we spoke, we had asked you classic fantasy question. Did you have any sleepers for that upcoming season? And you were like, the sleeper conversation. Hate it. I can't get into the weeds enough to be able to give an accurate thing. So I won't ask you overall fantasy sleeper question. What I will ask you is there anybody on the Commanders that you think people should be on the lookout for that might be either under the radar or that you just think are posed for a massive year? And honestly, you could even say an obvious starter if you just think there's going to be another huge year for Jayden, but is there anybody that, people should be on the lookout for on your team?
Well, with the last name of McCaffrey, I think it, pulls in some expectation, not only from, us outside, but also from him as well. So I think Luke is in a position where, just based off of the history of that family, that they have always been up and to the right when it comes to the football conversation. Obviously, we know what Christian's done, but his dad, also Ed, was also a legend back in the day as well. So, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. It's definitely a competitive, team we have as far as especially the receiver position. But I think, Luke is going to continue just to get better, and I'm super excited for him in this second year.
No, I'm excited to follow him as well. Obviously, bringing in Deebo Samuel, that receiver room as well. Going to be a bit of a different looking offense, but I imagine still just as explosive, and we'll see which names take the forefront this year. Now, very specifically, fantasy football question. I want to throw this at you and see what you think.
Yeah.
If you could build your ultimate fantasy football running back room, 3 running backs, as we'll say 2 of them are starting, 1 of them's in the flex. Which 3 running backs in history would you pick? You can have anybody in their prime. Who are you taking to build out your ultimate fantasy running back room?
In history, anybody in their prime. Wow. I mean, I'm taking Barry Sanders. I mean, I got to throw Barry in there. I'm going to put Emmitt Smith in there.
Okay.
As well. One more all time. Oh my goodness.
You can pick yourself too. I won't disallow that, or you can keep paying homage to the old.
I'm thinking we got some legends there. Like I gotta absolutely pay some homage to the Hall of Famers. I haven't earned that yet, or at all right now. So I still gotta play. I gotta play a few more years.
Sure.
Who else? I can go with Walter Payton. We'll throw him in there as well.
Okay, we're going way back with Walter Payton. I
Way
love it.
back, yeah.
I thought you were going to say LT. That was the one I was like, especially for fantasy and as a former Charger, I was wondering if he was going to.
That would have been a good pick for sure. We'll make sure he's in the bench.
For sure. No, I mean, yeah, that fantasy team is not losing a game. All right, next little off the wall question. If you could steal one ability from another running back in the league to guarantee that you finish as the RB1 next year, what skill would you take and who would you take it from? And it could be as simple as Derrick Henry's just massive size. Like, you could take that if you wanted somebody's vision, extra, I won't say pass catching. I feel like you kind of got that on lock over there.
I think I got that one.
If there's anything that you would need to be the RB1 overall, whose skill are you taking?
Ooh, this is interesting, but I'm taking now things have changed, but I'm taking Nick Chubb's tackle breaking ability.
Okay.
Like the way Nick Chubb used to run. I hope he's coming back this year. I'm excited to hopefully see some action from him. But Nick Chubb definitely. I guess I could take Saquon's as well. Saquon's tackle breaking ability is also off the charts.
Yeah, Saquon's numbers last year for it was 50+ yard runs. He had twice as many as anyone else in the league. So I think that's fair. But Nick Chubb, I love that you said that, because Nick Chubb for many, many years has been my guy in fantasy. The injuries have bummed me out, so I'm hoping we can get a little bit of a bounce back from him this year. And last thing before we will move on to charity draft. How do you feel about those Commanders jerseys that got busted out this year? The throwbacks. Have you seen those that you guys are going to be rocking? How are you feeling about those?
It's tough to tell until we all put them on and stand around each other.
Right.
And why I say that, I remember with the Chargers, even with the Commanders, the yellow pants, I'm just I'm not a fan of the yellow pants.
Yeah.
It's just mustard pants. And so, look, we'll go out there and wear them because I got no choice. I'm not going to be hey, I'm not going out in these pants, that's above, my pay grade. But the yellow pants, but I'm sure they're going to look good when we're all together. I'm hoping they are. And if they don't, guess what? I'm going to go out there and play them anyway.
That makes total sense. All right. Tell me about charity draft, because you reached out because you wanted to talk about this. And obviously my followers are definitely the right audience for this kind of thing. It's basically I'll give my little just understanding of it. We've got a bunch of players, both current and former, who are basically running these leagues, and you can win, if you join their leagues, prizes relating to those players. Is that it? I'll let you explain further.
Yeah, correct. So it's called Charity Draft. So you can check it out at charitydraft.com. But basically what it is we've gotten a bunch of prizes donated from players, game jerseys, game shoes, game worn memorabilia, some other signed memorabilia, game tickets, just event tickets. I think Brian Dawkins has given away 2 tickets to his, celebrity golf tournament that he does. So whole bunch of different prizes. We have coaching, all this different things that if you can get that you sign up. And we basically put all these prizes up for grabs, and you can join different tournaments to win these types of things. And so it's all fantasy football. And all the money that's raised from this goes to the charity of choice for those players. So they get to choose whether it's their foundation or something that they support. All the funds go there. So it's an awesome way to help the community, but also have fun playing fantasy football at the same time and get access to some unique prizes and things that you really can't go out there and just buy.
Yeah, there's a ton of players on there, again, current and former. If you're interested in something like this, you will definitely, I think, find a player that you would be excited to win something from, whether it's an autographed, jersey, helmet, again, like you said, tickets to a game. Super cool concept. I love it. I'm thinking about getting in a couple of those myself. And then again, to mention, there are a couple of different tiers of entry that you can get into with these, where, if it's a $50 entry or $100 entry, it'll have slightly lesser prizes than a $250 entry, but $250 entry, it's some crazy stuff.
Correct.
So whatever your budget may be, there's something in there for you. So no, I love the concept. I've heard you talking about it on some other shows, and I think it's something that really has the potential to take off. So be sure to check out Charity Draft. It is a awesome concept, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds going forward. Austin, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving me your time and answering some of these goofy fantasy questions and giving us some insight into the Commanders season last year, hoping for even better this upcoming year.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And also keep up the great content as well. Take it easy on my Commanders out there, and in the therapy and all that. But
you didn't give me much to roast last year. There was all pretty good. Like it was good stuff. So
look, I get it. I love how you put a funny twist that's more lighthearted. Like there's some serious stuff, some joking. So I keep it up. I think that's one of the positive things in fantasy is that we can have fun with it.
I appreciate it, man. All right, folks, that'll do it for this special segment with Austin Ekeler. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
All right, that was the Austin Ekeler segment. That was a look. Thank you to Austin once again for giving us his time to, give us some insight into the Commanders' season, fantasy football, all that good stuff. I think maybe my favorite part of that interview was during it in the chat. We had someone go, "Brandon, I'm so sure Ekeler doesn't give a fuck about fantasy football, dude." And I'm like, yeah, you're right, because this interview totally didn't originate with him DMing me to say, hey, I want to promote charity draft. You want to collab on some content to do that? Absolutely, I do. So tell me you don't know Austin Ekeler without telling me you don't know Austin Ekeler. No, probably the sole biggest fantasy supporter in the NFL today, I would say. So yeah, definitely not the case.
I do need you to clear a rumor up for me here.
Yes, I can do that.
I heard the reason why I was not involved in this interview was because he could not stand being the second most handsome bald man in the interview. Can you confirm or deny?
I cannot confirm nor deny, but I will plead the fifth on the matter. I will say there may or may not be some validity to that rumor.
Okay, yeah. And probably because I would have worn one of my old Giants jerseys, just like I had the Raiders jersey last time. So,
for the people out there, the real reason was because we were collabing on content surrounding this, and because I'm chopping this up for social media clips. I needed to have just the two cameras there, so it was as high res as possible. If I add Pat, Pat, this is a case where when I move back and I'm in your area, we'll be able to remedy that because we can just be in the same camera shot. But sadly, we could not do that this time, and it would have been
we didn't need
difficult.
my goofy in a third box in the bottom,
right, making everything else more pixelated than it needs to be. But yeah, no, thank you again to Austin Ekeler for joining us. That was a great conversation, and I hope to have him back on again. Yeah, I love, dude, the charity draft thing. No promo here, but it's really cool concept. I saw some of the players on there. I was like, a $50 entry to beat 12 randoms and then win a signed helmet or I was like, I could fucking do that. I'll smoke everybody and win a Geno Smith helmet or something. All right, let's get into our final, Pat. We are at the end of a long road. Fantasy football divisional preview, finishing out with the AFC East, my home and native land division, a division I spend a good amount of time thinking about just in general. So let's get into it. What are you chuckling at over there, Chucklesworth?
The Juice Man said Pat kind of looked like Shel Silverstein, and I didn't know what Shel Silverstein looked like. I honestly was under the impression that he was a woman. I thought for my whole life Shel Silverstein was a woman, and I do kind of look like Shel Silverstein.
Shel Silverstein. Oh dear. Okay, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's get into the fantasy preview. You know who else looks like Shel Silverstein? Kinda. Whatever the fuck goofy fucking terrorist coach on the Bills does, because he's a bald and also has a beard. I think Sean McDermott. His name was escaping me. Yeah, a la who Josh Allen. Buffalo Bills, Pat. The head coach is the same. The offensive coordinator is the same. The offensive line comes in at a composite ranking number 6 projection for this upcoming season. As far as their weapons are concerned, pretty much running back. Well, I shouldn't say running back the same guys. They lost Mac Hollins. They lost Amari Cooper. They added Josh Palmer. So a little bit of shuffling of maybe the secondary weapons here in this offense. And then the offense as a whole, look, it's the Buffalo Bills, and they're really good. They're a really good team. They're a really good offense, largely because of Josh Allen, who is just an absolute one-man show. But it also makes it a really sort of odd fantasy situation because, to me, there's not really anything bankable in this offense except Josh Allen. It's really just him, to me, that is slam dunk, gonna be worth his ADP. Of course, I'm going to draft. I'm not going to draft Josh Allen, but if I were to draft Josh Allen, I'm going to feel really good about it. And so we don't really even need to spend much time on him. He's arguably the best quarterback in the league. He's in his prime. Draft him if you want to lock down that quarterback slot. But it's really about everything else.
That's the thing is, like, if we were, I know you and I are kind of both more in the weight on quarterback group a little bit here, but if you were to not to pick Josh Allen, like if you want to take a quarterback early, Josh Allen is the guy to do that with. But yeah, it's so fascinating. This is even to a greater extent than the Chiefs, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, where this is such a good offense with such a good quarterback with no slam dunk targets. No. I mean, I still think James Cook is pretty, obviously he's a running back, but I think James Cook is pretty close to what he's going RB 14, 37th overall. Like, yeah, I think that's fair for James Cook, because even though Allen still does, take more than you'd like him to take at the goal line, James Cook still proved solid last year in a really good offense. He catches the ball. I know we saw some good things out of Ray Davis in the weeks where he was there, but I'm not particularly concerned that he significantly cuts into James Cook's work to the point where I'm fading him upon ADP.
So I don't like James Cook. I'll come out and say it like that. I think he's a good player. I do think he's a good player. He's a talented player. I think there are some things in his fantasy profile specifically that make me nervous. First of all, his snap rate, Pat, already is really fucking low. If you look at the amount of snaps that he's even on the field, it's hovering around 50% each game. And granted, that's not always a negative by default. Derrick Henry did not have a particularly high snap percentage last year because he's just not a pass catcher. And when he is out there, he makes the most of it. I mean, he's probably the best touchdown scoring running back in the league. But James Cook is a guy, Pat, that last year really benefited from a pretty unsustainably high touchdown rate. I have
16 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I have some numbers here. First, 36% of James Cook's points last year came from touchdowns. That is a fucking lot. Also, over the last, 5 seasons, of players who had a 7% or better touchdown per attempt a season, all of them regressed pretty heavily the following year. So James Cook was at a 7.7% touchdown per attempt rate last year. And every other player, Pat, we're looking at 2023, Raheem Mostert was at 8.6%. 2023, Devon Achane was at 7.8%. 2021, Damian Harris, 7.4%. All these guys dipped and had it almost cut in half. All these guys had it almost cut in half. And I know Damian Harris is not an inspiring name, but I'll give you some more relevant names just to round out the stat. 2021, James Conner, 7.4%. 2020, Alvin Kamara, 8.6%. All of these guys, their following season, did not have a touchdown per attempt rate above 4%. They all basically got cut in half and all saw a massive, massive dip in the amount of touchdowns scored. James Cook is a guy that, yeah, if he does it again, which, I mean, he theoretically could. I mean, anything can happen. Outliers happen all the time. But the history doesn't sound great for him from that perspective. Combine that with the fact that they're already dealing with contract issues with James Cook. He's already seemingly unhappy with the lack of extension, and the fact that Ray Davis did look pretty good last year. It's a lot of things combining to make me not feel good about a James Cook draft pick, at least not above the likes of a guy I'm really high on, Kenneth Walker. Him versus Alvin Kamara, I think I'd probably lean Kamara.
I think I do too.
And then I would say at least the next three guys on the list I would comfortably take over James Cook, and that's Chuba Hubbard, James Conner, and Omarion Hampton. I am just not a very big James Cook guy. I know it's hard to say, this is a talented player on one of the best offenses in the league and just had a really good year, but to me, those numbers scare me. Touchdown regression, Pat, we know, tends to bite guys more often than not. There are certainly some exceptions, but James Cook, that combined with just some other, concerning factors just kind of take me off him a little bit. And on the flip side, make me pretty willing to throw a dart at Ray Davis later in drafts because I like the talent and I could see them involving him more and more. The real dampening factor here is that Ty Johnson's going to be involved quite a bit. I mean, he played a lot last year, 30-ish, 40-ish% of snaps on a given week. That's why James Cook's snap rate was so low. It really wasn't Ray Davis much last year. Ray Davis got a little bit here and there. But Ty Johnson's a guy that like he's a good football player. He's a
That's all he
good
does.
real
Yeah,
life football player.
he fits
so
his
he's going to be
role.
on.
Absolutely.
He's going to be on the field. So I'm concerned about James Cook. I'd be willing to roll the dice on Ray Davis. Ty Johnson, as much as he's a good real life player, is not a relevant fantasy piece unless both those guys go down.
Okay, now here's my question for you. You have been abducted by the Taliban right now. Gun to your head. Which Buffalo Bills pass catcher would you take at ADP? And Sean McDermott will not save you. He will join their side.
Oh, boy. All right. I'll tell you this. It's not Khalil Shakir. I think Khalil Shakir is the most useful of the real-life Bills fantasy pass catcher, or real-life pass catchers, excuse me. But in fantasy, like, I just don't see the upside. I think he's a guy that it's like, if your roster gets decimated by injuries, you're going to be happy you have Khalil Shakir just because you know he's not going to be on the field. He's going to get targets. He's going to get some reception. But he's just a low upside play. We know what he is at this point. I think then you're looking at, I mean, really, I think it's three guys. I think Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, and Dalton Kincaid, if we're including the tight end.
Yes, he's included in the question.
I think I would go, if I have to absolutely pick one, I think I'd take Josh Palmer. And that's not because I think Josh Palmer is going to be the absolute best receiver on this team. It's because Keon Coleman is going in a place that I feel like there are other players I want to take. Josh Palmer is a guy that is free enough. I mean, where is he even composite rank or like overall Fantasy Pros ranking? He is wide receiver 71. Below, Xavier Legette, DeAndre Hopkins, Demario Douglas. And don't get me wrong, he probably belongs there. But he's getting a non-zero contract from the Bills. They signed him for 3 years, $29 million. I remember we talked about a while back the ASS stat, Pat, the average separation score, of which Josh Palmer was actually one of the better separators in the league last year and over the course of his career. So if I absolutely have to take a Bills pass catcher, it would be Josh Palmer, although I probably will not in reality be taking any of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like obviously they're different players, but this kind of feels like what it was like last year with Curtis Samuel, who turned out to be nothing. Where it's like, oh, this is the guy they went out and got in free agency. This is the guy that they want to pair up. Obviously, Palmer has way more upside than a guy like Curtis Samuel, who's kind of more the gizmo gadget player, as opposed to Palmer, who if Allen just decides to say fuck it and chuck it, Josh Palmer's going to be the guy down there. And that's why I think Keon Coleman had very, very brief glimmers last year. He just didn't get the work. And, if the gun's to my head right now, I think I might have to have Coach McDermott shoot, because I just don't really think I'm going to be investing in any of these guys from a fantasy perspective. Yeah. And you and I last year were very big on Dalton Kincaid. And
brother, I got bit. I am so done with these early tight ends, man. I can't do it anymore.
I just think that, unfortunately, it's just not really going to happen. I think we saw a tight end drafted with high draft capital in the real-life draft to an offense that did not have a primary wide receiver target. I mean, Stephon Diggs leaving especially. With an elite quarterback, and everybody thought, hey, Travis Kelce, we're good. We've got Dalton Kincaid now.
Right.
Like, I think people thought that he could be in something of a Travis Kelce light, and it's just not going to happen. He's just not the red zone target that he needs to be as a tight end to be efficient. Like, you look at some of these tight ends that kind of pop in to the streaming, it's because they get targets in the red zone. It's because they score touchdowns. That's where, unless you're really getting a true boatload of targets at the tight end position, touchdowns are still where it's at. It's still where it's at. And Dalton Kincaid has proven now 2 years. Granted, he missed a few games last year. Dawson Knox got the start over him in a few games last year. The guy just doesn't catch touchdowns at a position where, even as it does shift a little bit, you still need to catch touchdowns to be valuable. And going at tight end 13. There are still other guys in that. Yeah, I have him at tight end 18, right in front of Kyle Pitts. So that's just
my two worst nightmares right next to each other.
But that's I've got like Tyler Warren, Evan Engram, Colston Loveland, Brenton Strange. Those are all guys I would rather. I'm a big Brenton Strange guy. I'm dead ass.
I get it.
Brenton Strange. I've got Dallas Goedert above him in these rankings. Honestly,
we may have to talk.
I don't know. That was a couple months ago, but those are those guys before him, definitely guys I'd rather take a shot on than Dalton Kincaid. And again, this case where I'd rather be proven wrong. I'd rather not draft him and then watch him go catch 8 or 9 touchdowns and be like, oh, okay, Dalton Kincaid is actually something, and turn around on it next year. But I'm good.
I agree. Again, I think if you're going to be optimistic on Dalton Kincaid, you have to assume a couple things. One, you have to assume he was banged up for a lot of last year. And granted, he was halfway through the year dealing with knee injuries, but early in the year, there was really not much of an excuse, I don't think, for just the overall lack of chemistry between him and Josh Allen. And more importantly, Pat, Dawson Knox's existence is forever destroying the upside of Dalton Kincaid. Now, it's worth mentioning, and this could be nothing, but Dawson Knox is on the PUP list right now to start camp. So something to monitor, because if Dawson Knox ends up with an injury or something, or is not playing at any point during the season, Dalton Kincaid becomes interesting. I do see the path for Dalton Kincaid to take a step forward, just because if the injuries were really hampering him a lot last year, and just another year in the league, but it would require, I think, Dawson Knox to be gone. And there's other tight end bets I'd rather make. I think I would rank him probably above a guy like Dallas Goedert at least, and maybe above Brenton Strange personally, just because the path to a higher amount of targets is clearer. But that's about all I'm willing to say about Dalton Kincaid. There's not a lot of optimism.
That's the thing, is that you're the whole thing about being a top 2 target on your team. Anybody on this roster technically has a path to becoming a top 2 pass catcher. On
Josh Allen might have a path to being a top 2 pass catcher with his own catches.
That's the thing, and I just think the Dawson Knox thing is just so funny that the man quite literally had 0 touchdowns in college. 0. Granted, he played on an Ole Miss team with DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown, so there was not a lot to go around. But the guy had 0 touchdown catches, and then in the NFL, one of the best quarterbacks is just like, I'm going to throw to only you in the end zone. No one else and nowhere else. Just, okay, all right.
No. It is fucking ridiculous. Yeah, the Bills are definitely a hard team to nail down. And after seeing what they did last year, there's really just not a lot of reason to assume anything different is going to happen. They were one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL, and without a single reliably startable fantasy pass catcher. And so I'm making other bets. I just don't have a reason to bet on this team.
They've proven they can do it more so. Like we always talk about, the Chiefs and the Ravens only do it with one guy. Bills did it with 0. The Bills have now done it with 0.
And it's so funny.
Great for darts. Great for late round darts.
And it's just funny to me because it's like you look at the Chiefs. You look at the Chiefs and we make the argument because we're like, well, they're still winning games, but like they could be winning games by more. With the Bills, you can't even make that argument. They're one of the best offenses in the sport. So you can't really say, oh, they should funnel things more through this guy or that guy. Like, no, what they're doing was clearly working. And I mean, I know we've talked about on the show before how I believe they need a bit more alpha of a weapon just to win big games. I admit I may also be wrong there, but like that is not to say that they can't be one of the highest scoring offenses still over the course of the regular season, and I mean the playoffs as well. The Miami Dolphins, Pat, they are an interesting case. Head coach is the same. Offensive coordinator is the same. Offensive line is projected to be about 28th in the league. They brought in James Daniels to play guard for them, and they drafted Jonah Savaianaya. Teron Armstead, their star tackle, retired this offseason. As far as weapons are concerned, they added... This has to be the funniest group of players to ever say together that they added. They added Darren Waller, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Alexander Madison, and Ollie Gordon. So outside of
too many Raiders.
It's too many Raiders, and it's a very funny group of guys.
And they have Alec Ingold to join. That's probably how they got those guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, offense. This offense is an interesting one because last year, I would argue, in totality, the most surprising offense in football because they are an offense that went into the season. We'll take the games Tua was injured out of it for a second. This offense had Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle and has been so known for airing it out, and they did just simply the exact opposite of that last year. This was the most short area of the field, dink and dunk, Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith carry us to greatness offense you've ever seen in your life, and Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle were nothing more than window dressing all season. So the question becomes, Pat, Should we expect them to get back to their old ways, or should we expect them to do more of what they did last year, even though they traded away Jonnu Smith, so that adds some more questions to it? How do you feel about this offense? And I'll give you my view on it.
I think they're going to move closer. They're going to try to move back towards what they used to be. Will it be to that extent? Maybe not. Maybe not. And I think that's just because they have such a good running back in Devon Achane there, where it's like, yeah, if you want him to be the focal point of your offense, that's completely justified. But again, this is such a huge if, because I'd argue one of the only injuries that can kind of become a chronic issue is concussions. You know, like they say, there's no such thing as injury prone. You can be concussion prone.
It is objectively true. Once you suffer your first concussion, you're more likely to suffer them, especially when you launch your head at guys willingly.
Well, that's the thing. The fact that he plays like a fucking kamikaze out there, like, all right. But hoping, you know, for his sake, and obviously then for fantasy's sake, if Tua can remain healthy and play a full season and be able to build that confidence and to be in a spot where you're not worrying that this guy is one light tap on the head away from his brain being made of mashed potatoes. Like, we saw how important he was to this offense. It's funny because, you know, Tua has rightfully so been criticized for not quite being the caliber of player people thought he might be coming out of Alabama. But it just clearly goes to show that Mike McDaniel crafted this offense, much like Kyle Shanahan does, his predecessor in San Francisco, crafted that offense around Tua. Tua is the perfect guy to run this offense. And should Tua be healthy and be able to perform and play, you'd think they'd go back to that. You'd think that's still the plan there, to have Tua be that sort of guy. And if that's the case, then there's no reason, especially getting rid of Jonnu Smith, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle should very much be on your radar. I think, based on ADP, I actually think I prefer Waddle just because he's going a lot further down in drafts than Tyreek, to the point where you're looking back where this is the running backs and 2 targets on this team. And should Tua, again, this is a huge if, Tua could, knock on everything. Tua could get concussed week 2, and we're talking about, I don't even know who their backup is, Mike White.
Would you like to know who their backup is, Pat? Because we are looking at Zach Wilson.
Oh, that's right.
And then third string rookie Quinn Ewers.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So, granted, that probably is better than Tyler Huntley and
Skylar Thompson. I
and everything we've seen the last 2 years.
A little bit better, at least.
Like, hopefully. They actually have invested in that position, the backup quarterback position, a little. So, yeah, again, it's like, are you banking on the health of Tua? And am I going to go absolutely all in and say, like, yeah, I'm all in on Tyreek. I'm going to take Tyreek confidently at ADP? No.
Yeah.
I just can't do that, because we saw what happened when Tua goes down. Tyreek was almost unstartable, but you had to start him because he's Tyreek Hill. And if you sat him and he popped off, you'd feel like an idiot. So that's why I'm definitely more into Waddle there, just in the sense that what wide receiver 31 was, 69, like he's going around round 5 or 6. I think that's a far more palatable option there than taking big capital, top 2-round capital on Tyreek Hill, where we've seen the floor. And it's not his fault necessarily that the floor is hell. And also, you hate old people. He is getting a little older. But again, we'll see. If he kind of goes out there and has a lackluster year again, then we can start having the Tyreek is washed conversation. But that's not a definitive thing yet. He could turn it around and show, hey, I'm still that guy. But we'll see. But again, it all really depends on it all depends on how much you want to bank on fucking Tua, of all people. Hawk Tua. Get on the football field. Throw on that bang.
To me, Pat, look, the Tua health thing is definitely a concern. It's something you have to factor in, but it's really not the main thing I look at when I'm evaluating Tyreek Hill. What I'm evaluating is how defenses have played this team over the last 2 years. And it's startling. True. It's a stat I brought up again a couple weeks ago. I remember when I first found it. But to me, like, when you're looking at the Dolphins offense and why it was so conservative last year and figuring out if that's going to happen again, like, okay, was it because Tyreek wasn't 100%? He dealt with the wrist injury last year. Was it because they just didn't feel like they could throw down the field because he wasn't himself? Or is it how the defenses were playing them? And to me, there's overwhelming evidence that it was how the defense was playing them. So the stat that I brought up a while back is that Miami last year faced cover 2 28% of the time last year, most in the league, which is because of Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle, defenses adjusting to saying, we're not letting you throw the ball down the fucking field on us at will all the time. So they faced cover 2 at the highest rate in the league, 28%. Most in the league. The year before that, 2023, they faced cover 2 17% of the time, so a lot less. Pat, that was still the most in the league. So from 2023 to 2024, they went from having the most to aggressively having the most cover 2 played against them. So this is just defenses doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on saying, this is how we are going to stop your offense. And until they are proven wrong, that that's not working, I don't see a reason to change it. Like, yes, for fantasy, the way they're playing that defense, that led to Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith being awesome last year. Did it lead to the Dolphins' offense being awesome? No. It led to the Dolphins being a pretty mediocre team and not one that you're all that afraid of running that track meet on you. So I have every reason to expect that defenses are going to keep playing them like this. I have every reason to expect Devon Achane's going to keep being a goddamn monster. But as far as Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. I don't have a reason to expect different from Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle for as long as this goes on. The one note I'll say is I could maybe make a case for Jaylen Waddle, and it's unironically because they brought in Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Because they've got now sacrificial down the sideline boy in Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, Tyreek Hill, who's going to do a lot of that himself, and Jaylen Waddle, who you would assume is going to mop up a lot of these underneath sort of targets, or at least intermediate targets where Jonnu Smith has vacated.
I was about to say, I think every point you make is a great point, and the fact that it feels like the cover 2 was invented to stop Tyreek Hill, pretty much. So them getting rid of Jonnu Smith, could Waddle fall into that role? I think there's a really good chance because, this guy is one of my favorite players ever. Outside of the game, I don't know. I don't give a fuck about Darren Waller on this team, man. I really, really, I am so unbelievably unmoved by them bringing in Darren Waller. The guy hasn't played football in 2 years. At the end of his career, he was injury riddled. He wasn't playing very well in the first place. And, outside of last year with Jonnu Smith, even with Mike McDaniel as the head coach, they have historically not used the tight end position very well. Apparently everybody just fucking loves Jonnu Smith for some reason. I am not moved by Darren Waller, so I'm willing to, put my eggs in the basket of Jaylen Waddle being Jonnu Smith more so than Darren Waller or Nick Westbrook-Ikhine or anybody else that comes in there.
I'll give my short take on Darren Waller, and then we'll talk about Devon Achane a little bit more.
Yeah, then we'll glaze Devon Achane. I'll get my lotion.
But Darren Waller, Pat, I tweeted that, I might be interested in Darren Waller now.
He's on PUP too now.
He is also on the PUP list, which is important information. But ultimately, I don't think I'm going to be drafting much Darren Waller, mostly because it will break my rule that I have now established of I'm not taking players who just spent a year away from the game. I understand that with his injury-riddled, last campaign with the Giants and prior seasons even, that it probably did his body a lot of good, but I just, after seeing what happened to Calvin Ridley, and even, I'm sure there were more things at play, but Deshaun Watson as well, taking time away from the game is not a good thing. The NFL's a hard game to play. It's fast-paced. Getting out of that game speed for a full year, I think it's just hard to come off the street and play again. The optimistic side for Darren Waller, and why I tweeted, I don't think he shouldn't be a complete afterthought, and why I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if he ended up a little fantasy relevant, is because this is a guy that got brought to a team that obviously A, has no tight end, but B, their offensive coordinator was the Raiders tight end coach when Waller broke out with the Raiders, Frank Smith. It's the only reason Waller came back to play. And he said he was only going to play for Frank Smith or John Gruden if Gruden got a head coaching job somewhere.
See, that alone just shows that he is poor judgment.
Questionable
judgment.
Questionable judgment. But when it comes to fantasy production and usage, Pat, this was a guy that said outright he retired because he didn't want to block anymore. He realized he didn't love football anymore because the Giants were making him block too much. The Dolphins saw that and still said, we're going to sign you, which tells me, logically, Pat, he's probably not going to be blocking that much. He's probably going to be out there strictly in a pass-catching role, and he's still a big body, fast, athletic guy. So that's all I'm saying is I don't think it's impossible that he ends up fantasy relevant.
I don't think it is either, but
no, there's
not
other,
taking the bait.
Again, the fact that the year away from the game, once I realized that was like my sort of prerequisite for drafting a guy, I was off of him as well. But I still think there's a chance. Real quick, Devon Achane and Jaylen Wright. Devon Achane Devon Achane is a guy who, Pat, you were talking about Tyreek and how his production depends on Tua. As it pertains to Devon Achane, that's really my only concern with Devon Achane, because if Tua's out there, I think you're looking at a guy with RB1 overall potential. I mean, we've seen that with the games he's played with Tua out there. We've seen that with the way they've tailored their offense to be this short yardage, quick pass, system where Devon Achane basically was a wide receiver for most of last season. The actual between the tackles rushing was abysmal for him, and it might be again this year, although with at least with a reshuffled O-line, maybe it's a little better. He's just such a explosive player and fits exactly what they want to do that I think he's as good of a first round pick as you can get. I'm again picking at number 6 in our league. I'm not leaning toward taking Devon Achane, but I certainly haven't ruled him out. I think he is as valid of a first-round pick as it gets beyond the obvious Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs sort of tier. He's a monster. He's really fucking good at football.
Yeah, I would put him right behind that first tier of running backs that you just named. And again, the fact that them getting rid of Raheem Mostert does mean something. Obviously, Raheem Mostert was nowhere close to the 21 touchdown Raheem Mostert from 2 seasons ago.
I think he had 2. Yeah.
But nonetheless, I've heard some people say like, oh yeah, Jaylen Wright will just kind of slide into that role. And it's like, yes, I do think Jaylen Wright will have more of a role.
He'll be involved.
I love Jaylen Wright.
Jelly roll.
Jaylen Roll. I love Jaylen Wright as a handcuff. Like, he might be one of my favorite handcuffs because, one, he will have probably not enough standalone value to start, but some standalone value if you're really in a tight spot. And if Achane goes down, oh boy. Like, all aboard Jaylen Wright. But like you said, Achane kind of does a little bit of everything. Again, stay on the field. Similarly to Tua, the guy just, and even a lot of times when he's on the field, he's banged up. Like, if he can be on the field and not open the door for someone like Jaylen Wright to show what he can do. If he can become a truly bell cow running back, which I don't necessarily think he'll be, but even if he could take more strides towards being a bell cow with his passing game usage, with everything, it's almost like one of the times where it's like, I'm upset I'm picking at 3 because I know I'm not going to pick Devon Achane.
I think that's fair. And you look at Jaylen Wright, like, I do think there's certainly a case to be made for him. Like, look, the yards per attempt were nothing to really freak out over last year. 3.7 yards per attempt. Some of the games were pretty ugly. So you're definitely banking on a bit of a year 2 leap from him. But let's just not forget, Pat, that this is the offense that 2 years ago produced 2 top 5 running backs with Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, and that was with defenses playing the pass less aggressively than they are now. So there's the window is totally open for the run game to take absolute control of this team, and for Jaylen Wright to be, a major featured piece of that, while Devon Achane can still be a monster himself. So I think Jaylen Wright is as good of a late dart running back. I like Jaylen Wright as I'll put my stance on it this way. I like him better than Ray Davis as a late dart running back. I think the path to relevancy is just much clearer with him. But it does require him getting, to be quite frank, a little better at football. He had some really bad games down the stretch where the yards per carry were just bad because with Mostert dealing with the injuries last year, some of the opportunity was there for him and he just did not take it. So we need a bit of a year 2 jump from him.
Get your lotion.
My New England Patriots, baby. All right. Let's get to it. We saved the best for last.
I'm just going to mute. Go ahead.
And then we've also got the Jets after this, but whatever. We'll talk about the Patriots first.
We're going to talk longer about the Patriots, so then we can just slam the Jets in the 5 minutes at the end. Pretty much,
all right.
is what we're saying.
So much is new in New England, obviously. Head coach, Mike Vrabel. Offensive coordinator, what's old is new again. We've got Josh McDaniels back at the helm. Offensive line, composite 27th projected ranking, but does have 2 new tackles with Morgan Moses on one side, the absolute grizzled vet, and then the young buck Will Campbell on the other side.
Arms, yeah.
So we got a new rebuilt O-line. The weapons, they've added Travion Henderson, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, among others. And the offense overall, we'll see. So let's start with Drake May, who is maybe I think we said this about Dak too. I think they're kind of 1 and 2. Maybe the most popular late round quarterback target because of just the fact that he performed last year with dog shit around him. And now he has seemingly less dog shit. So Drake May last year, 18.7 points per game in the games that he started and finished last year, which would have been good for QB 11. And again, cannot be overstated. The O-line was horrible. Our best pass catcher was probably Kayshon Boutte. It was really, really dismal stuff. So the fact he put up 18.7 points per game is notable. Pat, over the last 40 years, only 5 players have had a season with at least 7.8 yards per carry on 50-plus attempts. Those players are Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, Tavon Austin, Devon Achane, and Drake May. So we've got a guy who has the rushing chops in addition to any sort of passing chops. And look, I think you're not going to be getting Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson with Drake May, right? But you are going to be getting enough athleticism, enough of that sort of chipped in rushing usage that I think Drake May becomes one of the better bets as far as high upside late in your fantasy draft. Important to note that under Mike Vrabel, I thought this was interesting. Obviously, these offenses that I'm about to reference had Derrick Henry on them. But in 2020, Ryan Tannehill was the QB7 overall, QB9 in points per game. In 2021, Ryan Tannehill was the QB12 overall, QB14 in points per game. Both of those seasons, he rushed for 7 touchdowns each. Ryan Tannehill did. And that's a guy that, like, respectable mobility, but not as mobile as a guy
wide
like Drake.
receiver.
Right. But didn't rush for the yardage as much as we think Drake May will. So there's even more upside for him there. I think the chances that he outperforms his ADP are 100% if he's healthy. It's a matter of by how much, because if he's QB 11, okay. But the chances are there that he ends up a very, very high-end quarterback for your fantasy team and that you can get him around QB 14 to 16 right now. Yep. I love Drake May. I think he is the most interesting fantasy piece of this offense, just relative to guys who are, you're comparing other positions. But I love him, and I want him. I want him real bad.
Oh, all right. Well, you said he is one of the favorite later round picks, and rightfully so. Absolutely rightfully so. And, you mentioned Dak. They're very good values for different reasons, and the main one for May is the upgrade in everything, essentially. And you didn't even touch on the fact that Kyle Shanahan got the most out of Mac Jones imaginable in that 1 year where Mac Jones looked like a passable NFL quarterback. Like, if he
Josh McDaniels got the most out of Mac Jones. He said Kyle Shanahan.
Did I say Kyle Shanahan?
You said Kyle Shanahan. Well, he has Mac Jones now, which is why I was like, where's he going with this? Because he's on the Niners now. But Josh McDaniels got a lot out of
I'd like to
Mac
give
Jones.
the most sincere apology to Kyle Shanahan for even thinking about you in the same sentence. Is that scum of the earth, Josh McDaniels. I might have to release like a notes app apology about this. That's how upset I am to do this to Kyle Shanahan.
Make sure, you got to screenshot it, put it on your Instagram, and I'll repost it.
Josh McDaniels,
Yes.
the bum that he is, has proven to be a very effective offensive coordinator in New England to the point where he got something out of Mac Jones, who has proven to be not really a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Not exactly.
So, yeah, if he could do that with Mac Jones, for all intents and purposes, Drake May is better than Mac Jones in nearly every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Who's to say that he can't build on what we already saw from Drake May last year, which was very good. It was very good. Again, it just wasn't able to truly culminate into what it might have been because of the bad offensive line, bad targets, poor coaching staff, everything. I think with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels under the helm, they can put Drake May under their wing. And even again, their targets still aren't fantastic. It's an upgrade, but this is still one of the lesser group of weapons in the NFL here.
Yeah.
But even then, it's still an upgrade, and we saw what Drake May did with a man named Pop last year. Pop's still there.
Dougie, baby.
But yes, I think that Drake May is going to be an incredibly popular pick to the point where he might be getting overdrafted at some points, because I think there's going to be guys fight, especially like in our leagues where, a lot of Patriots fans around this area.
Yeah.
There's going to be people fighting over this guy, I think, in later rounds. But yes, if you can get him at value, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I'm definitely not banking on getting him in our league, because I would probably have to overpay. But I want him. Pat, you mentioned the pass catchers. And yeah, look, I think the pass catchers are good enough now for Drake May to be good. But just to look at the pass catchers themselves for fantasy, it's really hard. It's a really hard room to figure out. I love Kyle Williams, but I think he might need an injury or two to really get some fantasy relevant usage.
Or just time.
Yeah, because all things equal, like the Patriots starting receivers are likely to be, week one, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, and Demario Douglas. For as funny as it is to say Mac Hollins, he's a very good real life receiver. He's a very good blocker. He's a very good just deep threats, again, sacrificial X receiver kind of guy. And look, he's not going to play every single snap, but he plays a lot of snaps. So I think those are going to be the starters, and as much as I love Kyle Williams, I don't necessarily expect a major breakout from him at the very beginning of the season. It might be something that takes a little bit of time. Stephon Diggs obviously profiles as the clear wide receiver 1 and could smash that wide receiver 42 consensus ranking that he has, but coming off of a torn ACL at age 31, and the fact that he's going to play at the start of the season, Pat, I just don't think he's going to be 100%. And especially considering the fact that his 100% now anyway at age 31, like we saw with the Texans, he wasn't really racking up a lot of yards. He was doing a lot of good work down in the red zone, and he was a great weapon for CJ Stroud to have. But the days of Stephon Diggs being in that top tier conversation, I think are long gone. He's a better real life weapon for Drake May. And again, I think he's going to take a little bit to come off of this injury. That's just what the timeline suggests, is that he won't be back to whatever his new 100% is by maybe week 5 or so. And as I'm not aggressively targeting any receiver in this room. I think it's more likely to be spread out. I think if we were to do the gun to my head, hypothetical, the answer's a little easier in this one because it is Kyle Williams. I would take him and just hope that he becomes I think he's the only one in this room with a real eventual alpha potential, just because of how talented he is, the profile that he has. If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be him, but it might not happen this year. So look, if you want to take that gamble, feel free. It could happen. But it's very murky here. I'm not recommending any Patriots receivers to anybody, tight ends included. And I love Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry was actually one of the only other bright spots last year. He was at least a decent bet for a touchdown any given week. But there's just too much going on here that even in an improved offense, I just don't think you're going to be able to nail down who the guy is, especially with the fact that I think, Pat, they're going to run it a lot. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. Even with a not great O-line, we have Mike Vrabel as the head coach. Obviously, there's no Derrick Henry on this team, but they spent a very, very early pick on TreVeyon Henderson. And I think TreVeyon Henderson is probably the second most excited player I am to draft on this offense.
I was honestly surprised at how much higher his ADP was than Ramondre Stevenson. I figured it'd be higher, but I kind of figured they would be one of those cases where they're kind of going back to back, at least for Fantasy Pros ADP. Henderson is RB24. Stevenson is 40.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's necessarily they're wrong for that they're being drafted incorrectly. I was just surprised from the surface level because I don't know how to feel about this backfield. But the more I thought about it today and lead up to this, it makes me want TreVeyon Henderson.
Talent wins out, and I think he's just a better player.
In the fact that Ramondre Stevenson is just another of these guys that has proven to be decent, not a bad running back, but he has never truly reached the same heights that we've wanted him to be, to the point where they've had Antonio Gibson significantly cutting into his work last year, and maybe that was a Gerard Mayo issue as well. But Kyle Shanahan, they crossed over, right? Did Shanahan and Stevenson had to have crossed over? No.
You mean McDaniels again?
Did I say Shanahan?
Why is Kyle Shanahan Josh McDaniels to you? What is happening?
I'm done.
I mean, if you want Kyle Shanahan to be our OC that bad, I'm not going to say no.
I'm done. You talk.
Josh McDaniels and Ramondre Stevenson. No, I don't think they crossed over because Stevenson really hasn't been here very long. Stevenson was drafted in 2021, so no, I think McDaniels was probably still piddling around the Raiders at that point, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, he got to the Raiders in 2022, so no, he was ROC for 2021. How does this work? Is that the 2021 season, or does that mean he left before the 2021 season? Okay. He was hired by the Raiders on January of 2022. So yeah, he had him for a year, I guess. Yeah, Pat, it sucks because I was such a Ramondre supporter and believer, a couple years ago. But he was a guy that Gerard Mayo, buffoonery or not,
hated.
Almost got himself benched. This was, I remember, one of the biggest negatives to Gerard Mayo's entire coaching tendency was that we got word that Ramondre was supposed to be benched for a given week, and we were like, good. Well, and we were like, good because he wasn't playing well. Cool. Start Antonio Gibson. He's been good. And then that week Ramondre was just starting and he couldn't explain why. And it came down to he didn't communicate enough with his fucking coaching staff, which fucked Mayo. But there was a reason that happened.
To say something though.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm having a very profound thought.
Yes.
Antonio Gibson fucking sucks.
He's Travion not that
Henderson.
Bad.
Travion Henderson does not. That's the thing. So, the fact that Antonio Gibson, whether this was Gerard Mayo's incompetence or not, the fact that
it
they
wasn't.
even
Gibson earned it. Gibson, as a Patriots fan, Gibson earned whatever that role was at the end of the year, for sure.
The fact that Stevenson opened that door for that to happen is what I'm saying. Just goes to show that someone with this high, top 40 pick, right, in the draft here, I think we could be looking at maybe a Chase Brown, Zach Moss situation last year where they're both involved to start and there's a little bit of Stevenson. And again, injury or not, I think by the end of this year, I think Travion Henderson will pretty firmly be the guy here. But again, Stevenson being there and the potential of him at the, being more relevant at the beginning of the year kind of makes me pump the brakes a little on RB24. But at the end of the day, depending on where you take him, that's probably okay. If he's kind of in your flex first bench spot there.
To me, the pass catching chops make me a little less nervous about him that high because you're playing for, again, the season long upside with him for sure. He'll be involved early in the year. Yeah, you might have to eat a couple of 9, 10 PPR point performances out of him before he really hits the ground running without Ramondre Stevenson. But he's just such a well-rounded player. He's renowned as a pass blocker, Pat, which is maybe the most important factor with such a bad O-line. Who do you want out there when you're trying to protect Drake May? It's the guy who's a really good pass protector, and then so many things come off of that, being involved more in the offense. Being on the field more is always helpful, and I think Travion Henderson is going to earn that sooner rather than later, so I'm definitely very in on him.
Mayo, Vrabel, and Josh McDaniels all come from the same Bill Belichick school of coaching, where it's I wouldn't be surprised if this new old coaching regime in here has similar feelings about Ramondre. So the more I thought about it, even today, I'm firmly in Camp Henderson here.
Yeah, and then the last thing I want to say about the Patriots for fantasy, Pat, because this is just maybe the first team I've even mentioned this about. I think their DST, if you are in a league with that, is going to be good. The Patriots defense added about a bajillion new pieces, and their schedule is not hard. So if you're looking for just a defense that's maybe not the most highly touted yet in your fantasy league, I think they're interesting. There's just a lot of talent on that side of the ball.
Rip my king, Robert Spillane.
We took, I think, 90 former Raiders on this roster.
Including Josh McDaniels.
True. All right, let's finish out with
McShanahan.
With the New York Jets.
Sorry.
The Jets have also...
That might not be fair this year.
Nah, I will see. I think it might be. The Jets have had a lot of turnover as well. New head coach Aaron Glenn, offensive coordinator. Following him from the Lions, Tanner Engstrand. He was, I believe, their pass game coordinator over there.
Yep.
Offensive line, composite number 18 projection, so it could be worse. They're going to be having some new starting tackles on both sides. Olu Fashanu, who's been there, is going to be starting week 1, we think, on one side. And then Armand Membu, the newly drafted rookie, is going to be on the other side. As far as weapons are concerned, and I mean, I hesitate to call these weapons, but they added Josh Reynolds, Arian Smith from Georgia, and then Mason Taylor, the rookie tight end. Those are the main additions to this offense.
I'll say something. When I was putting together these ADPs on here today, I was shocked by their depth chart at wide receiver. It is Garrett Wilson
It's funny.
And nobody, which honestly, we're jumping all over the place, but I guess we've got 10 minutes left, so this is all going to be jumbled.
It's the Jets. It's fine.
I'm so fucking in on Mason Taylor as a late shot. Like, if you're going to take a really late shot at tight end, you talk about being a top 2 target.
Yeah.
That is so very possible. And we've seen the Jets involve tight ends, whether it be your boy, the Conk, or, whoever. Obviously not a lot, but there's that. Tanner Engstrand was not the offensive coordinator, but he was on Ben Johnson's staff for these Sam Laporta years. And we forget how much Justin Fields loved throwing to Cole Kmet.
Yeah,
in Chicago.
I was going to say. Cole Kmet, I have it up right now. Tight end 7 finish back-to-back years. With
could be different play. That could just been a Cole Kmet thing. But say it's a Justin Fields thing, Mason Taylor going that late. Especially where tight end is a bit yuckier than past years. Again, it could end up being nothing, but you're drafting him where you're drafting a lot of guys that are going to be nothing. Take the fucking shot on. Like, I took him in Dynasty, and I am thrilled. I am thrilled for this year. I'm thrilled for the future. But I didn't even realize how bad their other skill positions, because I don't think about the Jets very often. That's how I didn't know this compared to other teams. There's really a shot here. There's really a shot. And I guess for that same reason, Garrett Wilson gets extended. You like Garrett Wilson, even though it's the Jets. This is hopefully a new Jets with Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand, and hopefully Justin Fields can be good enough to keep Garrett Wilson to a strong level. And we still saw Garrett Wilson have good weeks last year, and we saw Devontae Adams have good weeks last year. I think Justin Fields does enough where Garrett Wilson, you were still looking at firmly a top 20 fantasy wide receiver for this year.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on Garrett Wilson. I think, I look at where he's consensus ranked right now, wide receiver 15. There's a couple guys behind him I'd rather have, but then I look at the rest of them and I'm like, all right, I'd rather have Garrett Wilson than you. So to me, it's like I could see Garrett Wilson ending up on my team if he falls a little bit. I mean, Look, consensus overall has him at 31 overall. I will not be spending a 3rd round pick on Garrett Wilson. If he manages to fall to me in the 4th, then great. This offense overall, Pat, just doesn't. I don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback, and I don't think that's I don't think that's a bold take to have. Justin Fields' own fantasy relevance is not because he's a good NFL quarterback. So it just feels gross, even though he propelled DJ Moore to a really good fantasy year a couple years ago. Not last year, but the year before. Cole Kmet to some good finishes. It just doesn't feel good to bet on a guy who you don't think is a good passer to have good passing weeks and produce good games out of Garrett Wilson. I see the argument because he's literally the only fucking guy there. But I also, Pat, have some quotes here from some of the beat reporters around the Jets. One of them, Zach Rosenblatt for The Athletic, said it would not shock him if the Jets went from last to first in rushing attempts in 2025. So you take a team that wants to run the ball a fucking lot. Granted, game script will change that a little bit because we expect the Jets to be trailing, right? They're the Jets. But if their priority is not to throw the ball, it just makes me iffy on Garrett Wilson. There's circumstances where he could just volume his way to being a good fantasy receiver. I'm just not thrilled to take him in a draft. It feels gross looking at Garrett Wilson, knowing that you are banking on his leap to be fueled by Justin fucking Fields. It just doesn't feel good to me. So I'm a little iffy on Garrett Wilson, but
I think what you're saying perfectly segues into the next point here of Justin Fields. The fact that he's being drafted as a low-end QB1, high-end QB2. And we said he's a bad quarterback. We said this. Yeah, he still belongs in that area from the rushing itself, and I think that was why everyone was so upset. When they put Russell Wilson in for him in Pittsburgh, everyone was kind of upset about it, but that was purely fantasy. Like, that was purely from a fantasy perspective, and it's because of the rushing upside Justin Fields provided. And if, Tanner Engstrad is taking a page out of the Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson playbook and run the football, Justin Fields is obviously, they never had a running quarterback in that system. They had statue man Jared Goff. Like, imagine what a running quarterback could do there. If you are kind of looking at one of the low-end QB1s, Justin Fields has all the upside in the world just because, is he going to run like Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts? Probably not, no.
But it's easier to run when you're those guys when there's actually the threat of you throwing the ball, which there's not as much of with Justin Fields.
God damn it. But to my point is, yes, like, I still think that Fields will be a very productive runner. And I mean, talk about Fields first if you had anything to say, because I was going to segue into the running backs, but go ahead.
No, I really don't have a lot more about Fields. I'm right there with you. He feels like a guy that I'm, again, probably not going to draft just because, like, there's so many moving parts with this new Jets team. And again, this kind of goes back to why I'm iffy on Garrett Wilson too. It's like you've got a first-time head coach, a first-time offensive coordinator, Justin fucking Fields as your quarterback, an offensive line that you don't know exactly what they're going to look like yet. They've got new pieces and they've been pretty bad in recent years. And having a quarterback, like, I know Tyrod Taylor is their backup, but, like, I hate having a quarterback where I am worried that they're not going to play well enough to keep their job. Do I envision a scenario where he gets benched for Tyrod Taylor? No, because it's Tyrod Taylor, and what upside does he give you? But could he play so bad that we get like a temporary Bryce Young sort of benching? I wouldn't be shocked. Like, there's so many things that have to come together, and with a quarterback that's already not that good, it's just, I feel like you're asking for trouble. I do understand, though, the fantasy excitement just about his rushing because there's nobody going drafted around him that has his purely rushing upside. I just don't know that I'm targeting the Jets quarterback with a new coaching staff.
That's fair.
I don't know that I'm doing it.
And now I think might be the most divisive player in fantasy drafts this year. It's Breece Hall.
I have strong thoughts on Breece
See,
Hall.
you do. I don't.
I do.
That's the thing. I was kind of, again, today I was just thinking, like, why? Like, last year was very disappointing. Like, last year he was one of the top. It was really, the question was like him or Bijan for like top running back last year.
It was.
And Bijan again wasn't quite the top running back, but he was still really good.
He was very close.
Breece Hall was not. Breece Hall only had 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks inside of the top 12, being a RB1 on a weekly basis. That is bad. Like, that is bad. And again, he was kind of banged up there at the end of the year, which is why we saw some Braylon Allen and, oh God, no. Isaiah Davis. I almost called him Israel Abanaconda. Jesus Christ.
Well, I would like to point out, with your name flubbing theme of the day, you do have in our show sheet Braylon Allen as Braylon Edwards, the former
No, I don't.
receiver. You very much do.
Son of a bitch.
You're really on
okay,
one
fine.
with the names.
So Jets offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels here is, but again, you talk about if the Jets kind of want to go for this lion smash mouth football, do we see Braylon Allen kind of becoming more of a David Montgomery, or does Breece Hall kind of just become this major benefit of this change in, personnel, this change in philosophy? I don't have strong thoughts, so I am very interested to hear your strong thoughts to wrap our show up.
So the way I prepare for these divisional breakdowns is I do the same thing for every team. I write down their head coach, OC, whether those things have changed, their O-line, their weapon breakdown, whatever. And then I kind of just write whatever comes to mind about various things across the team. If I cover every position group, great. If I only cover one at length, great. Pat, I want you to look at this sheet. Most of this is Breece Hall. If you look at the camera here, this is almost.
I still can't believe you write stuff down. You need.
I like write. Well, I remember things better when I write. But as
type it.
No,
that's what I do.
No, writing makes me remember it.
I get tired.
Breece, shut up. Breece Hall. So first thing, Justin Fields, Pat. and this might be a misconception around the league. I feel like people think running quarterbacks are bad for running backs or whatever it is, but Justin Fields is one of the highest check down rate quarterbacks in the league, first and foremost. He was number 2 in the league in 2024 with a 14.9% check down rate behind only Andy Dalton, who didn't even play the whole year. I mean, Fields didn't either. Fields didn't either, but again, and he was not, Justin Fields was also number 6 in 2023 in check down percentage at 12.7%, behind the likes of Mitch Trubisky, Russell Wilson, Jimmy G, Zach Wilson, and Derek Carr. So
Just all the ass.
Right. So he has, for fantasy purposes, the ineptitude desire to check down to his running back, largely, I think, because he can't read defenses and he just wants to get the ball to fucking somebody, and the running back's the closest guy to him. Whatever the reason may be, he loves checking down to running backs. Breece Hall is a very good pass-catching running back. Aaron Rodgers, Pat, was not doing that kind of thing. Aaron Rodgers, in fact, the reason there was a projection that the Jets could go from the least rushing attempts to the most in the league is because Aaron Rodgers, yes, they were trailing games, but he was also just fuck you. I'm throwing the ball. I'm doing my thing. I'm getting my numbers. I'm chucking to Alan Lazard. I'm chucking
Where's
to
Alan
Devontae
Lazard?
Adams.
Yep.
You can't make me run the ball. Fuck you. And that's not the offense they're going to have this year. So, look, the hope for me is that for the plays where they do pass the ball, forget the fact that I think Breece is going to have more rushing potential this year, but the hope for me is that the Jets understand that they have so few receiving options outside of Garrett Wilson that Breece Hall, even if Braylon Allen or Isaiah Davis eat into his workload, or Braylon Edwards, can become their pseudo wide receiver too, like a Devon Achane light sort of situation.
Could he be Devon Achane? Yeah.
Because they just have nobody else. There have also been multiple reports, again, from ESPN's Rich Cimini, who has been the Jets guy forever, and the Athletic's Zach Rosenblatt. The Jets want to mimic the Lions' offense in ways with Hall playing the Gibbs role and Braylon Allen playing the Montgomery role, which brings up two things, a couple takeaways there. One, Allen becomes at least interesting late in drafts if that's something that they want to do, even if they can't, for game script reasons, do it all the time. But two, obviously that's easier said than done. So if the Jets are chasing leads a lot more often than the Lions were, which we very much expect, which of those two players is going to be on the field more while they're chasing leads, Pat? The Gibbs role or the Montgomery role? It's going to be the Gibbs role. So if they are really trying to mimic the Lions here, I think Breece is going to play a lot. And just to touch on why he was so bad last year, look, you can't excuse everything. There's always the possibility that he is just not recovering from, the knee injuries that he's had the way that you want him to. And maybe his career is cooked to a certain degree because of them. But I feel like, Pat, if he's coming into the season healthy, I'm going to feel good about him. Again, another year removed from the surgery that he had. And he said he was dealing with some pretty notable knee stuff last year. So it flared up on him. We talk about this all the time with running backs. As long as you come into the season healthy, we kind of got to give you a pass because playing running back is just hard and it's hard on the body. I think as long as he comes into camp, healthy and starts the season healthy, I'm very in on Breece Hall in the 3rd or 4th round. If you get him in the 4th round, I mean, smash that draft button faster than anything ever. But I would even consider him in the 3rd round.
See, I was more so in the boat that his downfall is being exaggerated, but they were still just the fact that so many people were questioning it in the first place. It's there's got to be some smoke to it. So I'm very intrigued by hearing that take. That kind of clears up more so the why you should like Breece Hall.
Yeah,
which I said I kind of wanted to, but again I was just being spooked by so much negativity surrounding it. He's in every bust video you see.
Again, I think it's crazy to put him in a bust video when he's being drafted in the 3rd round. Because what do you think is going to happen to him that's going to make him bust as a 3rd round pick? The guy's going to play. What do you think? They're going to bench him completely for Braylon Allen? I don't think that's happening. And if you do think that's happening, Braylon Allen's free at the end of drafts. Go get him too. I just think talent ultimately wins out. This team's going to run the ball more. When they throw the ball, he is going to be one of their better pass catchers. As long as they realize all of these things, he is the guy I feel the best about on their team, and I would be more than willing to have him as my RB2 in fantasy football. So that's where I land on Breece Hall. That's where I land with the Jets. Even though I don't like them as a team, I have identified at least a bright spot that I like. I like the Mason Taylor call out too. I definitely see him as a late round pick. But that will finish our divisional previews, folks.
Wow, 8 weeks.
I know, eight weeks of just banging this stuff out. Upcoming weeks.
Banging and banging and banging.
I love banging.
When a guy is banging you.
Upcoming weeks, I mean, I got some good ideas for shows. Obviously, we can dissect some of these ambiguous backfields all at once. We'll do some mock draft stuff. We'll eventually get to the My Guys, Brand's Boys, Pat's Pals episode. Yeah. So we've got some good stuff coming, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got a new episode every Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern Time. But that'll do it for this episode of Brand Coverage. For Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we'll see you next time.
Austin Ekeler scared of my aura. Bye-bye.
All right, donation questions.
He's gonna beat my ass.
He is so huge, just so muscly. All right, Lucian with $5 said, favorite rookie that did runouts to enter Sandman in college?
Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor. Basho! Tootin'.
Duval.
We love Bayshell too and around these parts. Lucia with another 5 said, I've come to the conclusion that 85% of the time a team releases a new uni, people hate just to hate. Saints gold jerseys are amazing. I feel like most jerseys got a pretty good reception this year. The one that didn't, I think the Steelers ones the other day were genuinely ugly and awful. And yeah, I like the Saints one. The Chargers yellow ones I could do without, but I think most of them have been pretty good. But if people are really bitching about all of them, then yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I don't tend to have strong feelings about jerseys. I tend to think the bad ones are funny. So I enjoy being I love those fucking neon yellow Oregon jerseys.
Your favorite team wears black and white, so there's not really a whole lot of experimentation.
Jerseys, I love those too.
I like those actually. I hate
also, there was a catcher's balk in the Red Sox game tonight.
I saw that with the Bryce
during the Ekeler segment. Yes, because the catcher stepped out in front of the plate and the pitcher did not disengage, so it was a pitch. So it was a thrown pitch. That is the rare catcher's balk. That's why he was safe anyway. But yes, I was going to mention that earlier, but we had more important things to talk about.
The Red Sox play? That was Red Sox Phillies? I didn't even realize that.
Yes, Red Sox Phillies, yes.
Interesting. All right, Lucian with $2 said Dolphins tight end / rapper Darren Waller placed on PUP. Yes, we covered that. Yes, he was.
He got that dog in him.
Alex at $4.99 said, what jersey of a little-known player would you buy based on 1 year of them being an unsung fantasy hero? Mine is Antone Smith, 2014, certified dog. Pat, you seem to have an answer.
I own a Kevin Boss jersey.
Oh, my. Who would I... Oh, you want to know who my savior was and who quite literally won me a championship? I mean, this is a group effort, but J.D. McKissick was a big one.
Oh, yes.
A couple years ago. He was a real big one, so I would say J.D. McKissick. Retro Clan with $9.99. So what's up, Brandon? Been watching since day one. I'm a Jets fan. Sad. What do you think our record will be?
I'll give you 7.
4-13.
Oh, okay. I'll give you 7 and 10.
4-13. Icky.
I'm not going to call them this year's Commanders, but if that ended up happening, I wouldn't be gobsmacked, boing, stunned. It could happen, but so I'll err a little on the more positive side there, but I still don't think they're going to be very good.
I'm going to continue doubting the defensive-minded head coaches. I did it with Dan Quinn and it didn't work, but I'm going to do it again with Aaron Glenn and hope it works.
Aaron Glenn, this is so overdue for Aaron Glenn being a head coach. And it's I just want him to succeed so badly.
I hope he does too, even though he's on the Jets.
It may not be this year, granted, because any first-year head coach, you mentioned Dan Quinn, but he had been a head coach for a long time. Any first-year head coach, there could be the growing pains. But I just hope this is not a case where he is 2-3 years and gone. He's Vance Joseph. I don't want that to happen for Aaron Glenn at all.
Sadly, it's the Jets, and I would
be so
unfortunately unsurprised.
Or maybe he'll get another chance because it's the Jets and no one takes any stock in that.
Retro with another $1.99 said you should shave your head. It's balding fast. Rude.
Is he talking about me? Because I do.
I think he's talking about me because your head's. I mean, I know you're not completely to the bone.
I shaved
right now,
my head though.
Yeah, I know. I think he's.
I shaved my head most recently on Friday. I'm there.
My hairline is none of your concern. I'll be booking my trip to Turkey promptly. I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. Lucia with 5.
To ham instead. Sorry.
Shut the fuck up. Lucia with 5 said Bills red helmets return. Jamal Adams is a Raider and Tyrann Mathieu retired. Thank you for summarizing my Twitter feed for the day. Yes, all of those things I was aware of. Thank you. I do love the Bills red helmets.
Carroll
those are sick.
Loves his Jamal Adams.
Let's see. Lucian with another 5 said, did y'all hear the Bears were supposedly close to picking J.J. McCarthy over Caleb Williams? They made a good decision taking the obvious number 1 pick. Yeah, see, the thing is, one, I didn't see that, so I'll entertain this just off the idea.
No, yeah,
that
I
it's
didn't see
true.
this either. Yeah.
If this did actually happen, there would have been so much pressure on JJ McCarthy if you do that. Like, you take Caleb Williams and it doesn't work out. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter for the regime either way. Regime's getting fired either way if Caleb doesn't work out. So it would have been the same with JJ, but I think you put too much pressure on JJ himself if you make him the number one quarterback in a class where pretty much everyone had him as the consensus number 4 behind Daniels and May. That would have been really bad. So yeah, I think they made the right decision. Even if Caleb doesn't pan out the best, I don't think there was any reason to take JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, and that's a case too where you're seeing Caleb kind of be the player with all the tools to being the number 1 overall, as opposed to JJ, who had the team success on a team that ran the football a fuck ton, where he didn't have to do a whole lot. Yeah. So in the moment, that's a good decision, and I think it'll end up being a good decision. Like, we may be talking about J.J. McCarthy having a better year than him this year, but Kevin O'Connell. Like, that may be the Kevin O'Connell factor. I still think at the end of the day, Caleb is the better quarterback and will be the better quarterback.
I think that makes sense. Puka Glazer says, Puka, Offensive Player of the Year 2025.
Shout out Puka Glazer.
He might.
Join the league, Puka Glazer.
Yes. Storm Chaser Gabe with $2 said, hi, Bran. Hi. Alex Alex at 199 said, ever nixed a video idea because that was a bad idea? I think so. I can't recall
Najee
them.
Harris eye patch.
No, that's coming this week.
God.
I think I have a generally good perception of like what is too OD for me to even start writing a script about, but I think I've pulled the plug before based on just like more details coming out. Or at least maybe I put like a preliminary idea out there because it was like somebody who fucking committed a crime or something, but then it wasn't worth, tearing them down over, or it wasn't worth making light of. I don't know. I'm sure it's happened. I can't recall any exact examples though. Alex with another $1.99. RIP legendary Black Sabbath singer Kyle Shanahan.
I forgot to do my soliloquy on Ozzy Osbourne during the actual show.
You mean Kyle Shanahan?
Kyle Shanahan. God, like,
everyone's Kyle Shanahan.
People throw around the word icon a lot, but like Ozzy Osbourne defined a genre of music, and not just like you could say like when my boy Brian Wilson died, he was the icon of surf rock. Who gives a fuck? Mm-hmm. We are talking heavy metal, one of the most popular genres of music. Still to this day, he is the heavy metal singer, and for him to be so public about his struggles with Parkinson's, and to watch him be able to see his legacy be honored and to have that one last moment makes it all the more better. And, he's not suffering anymore and he's flying high again. We love you, Ozzy.
Man, literally.
And Kyle Shanahan.
Man literally rocked out until the day he died.
Pretty much, yeah.
William Jones with $4.99 said, if you had to take a second-year quarterback to start, would it be Drake, Caleb, or JJ? Also, I think Pat wants Shanahan to be McDaniels because of the Irish names. Is Kyle Shanahan Irish? Is that what we're getting at here?
Yes.
I mean, McDaniels, obviously.
They both are, yeah.
Josh McDaniels.
Kyle Shanahan.
All right, second-year quarterback to start. Is this? I guess we can answer fantasy, and I mean, I guess it's probably a fantasy question, right? It wouldn't be a real-life question, I wouldn't think. Yeah, Drake and Caleb are very close to me. JJ is a slight tier below.
Yeah.
I think give me Drake by a little.
I was about to say give me
little.
Drake as well, just because the rushing floor is there, and the Bears could end up being fucking terrible. Like, we're kind of all sitting out being like, Ben Johnson, this and that. It's the Bears. Like, I don't think it's going to happen, but there is the possibility that they are bad. And if they are bad, Caleb is not going to have a good year. I think even if the Patriots are bad, which I know Bran is going to be blasphemous, I don't think they're going to be all that great. I still think there's the world. It's more likely that if the Patriots are bad and Drake May being good than the Bears being bad and Caleb being good for fantasy. So I'll say that. I like them both.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's just as much coaching turnover with both teams. I think the difference to me is the Caleb fantasy relevance is a little bit more speculative than Drake's is, because Caleb had some spike weeks, but he was not good last year. And so if things stay the exact same, if he's holding on to the ball too long, if Ben Johnson does not maximize Caleb's mobility like I think he will and should, then you're looking at a bad result probably for fantasy and probably for real life. Drake May, even though he's got a completely new coaching staff, I mean, Josh McDaniels is already talking about doing designed runs and stuff with him after seeing what he did last year. So I think it's just a little bit more bankable that Drake will be a consistent fantasy asset. Although, to be quite honest, I want both of these guys because I think the odds one of them pans out and becomes an elite quarterback for fantasy is pretty high. So I'll take both those guys over JJ. JJ just feels like a high floor, but maybe a lower ceiling type of guy, but we'll see if that holds true. Nate with $2 said, yes, 49ers head coach Josh McDaniels. Yes. Daniel with $1.99 said, Bran got to stop giving me hope for Breece Hall. Hey, man, I like Breece Hall. What can I say? Daniel with $4.99. Daniel said, I'm a victim of Pitts and Hall for the past 3 years. I hate my life.
Pitts is your fault, bro. The Pitts is your fault, Daniel.
Pitts is your fault. If you fell for that any more than one time, that's your fault. As much as people clown me about Kyle Pitts, I fell for that precisely one time. I did not fall for it again.
It's the George Bush. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you don't fool me again.
Right. And then Daniel with $1.99 said, we have budget Ekeler every week, y'all. That's you, pal. Your budget Ekeler. All right, a couple questions from the general.
Wife like his.
A couple questions from the chat. If you guys want to throw them in here, we'll answer a few before we jump off for the night. So send them in. We will pick our faves. And
while we look, I just got to say another baseball thing. Rich Hill is pitching tomorrow.
He's a million years old.
And this is so funny that there's only five chains here. Rich Hill faced Jamie Moyer in a game, who faced Steve Carlton in a game, who faced Warren Spahn in a game, who faced Satchel Paige in a game. Satchel Paige was teammates with Bill Gatewood, who was born in 1881. Like, we've only got 5 connections from Rich Hill to the first man in baseball history.
It's pretty good. I do enjoy that I asked for questions, and I think the first message I got after asking for questions was the Juice Man just saying Kenny Stills. So that makes me laugh. Yes. I agree, Kenny Stills. Let's see. Chargers Austin Ekeler or Chargers Najee Harris? Brother. Chargers Najee Harris.
Chargers Najee Harris is a pirate. Chargers Austin Ekeler was quite literally RB1, overall 1 in fantasy.
Chargers Najee Harris is a pirate. Chargers Austin Ekeler is coming for ye booty every week. So it's a bit different. Rice Flight said, Brand, would you rather have Jaden Daniels as opposed to Drake May? Not referring to fantasy. Yes. I mean, look, taking my attachment aside, yes. Let's see.
But would you rather have him over Geno Smith is the question.
Jacob said, wait, I didn't mean this. Hold on. Who is this? Thoughts on Earl Morrall? I don't see enough Earl Morrall love these days. I didn't even mean to click on this. That name sounds familiar. Who the fuck is that? Oh, my God.
He's an old-ass
Colts
player,
quarterback. Colts quarterback from the 50s? Yeah, from the 50s. Old bitch. I remember seeing his name because I was doing some like deep Colts research at one point, so that's why. 3-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl 5, 7, and 8. Okay, that
he was the backup for Johnny Unitas and Bob Greasy. Pretty cool story. I mean, he's dead now, but pretty cool story to have told.
All right, what was the question I was trying to click? Eliza said, "What's your favorite mid-round wide receiver this year?" Mid-round wide receiver. All right, we'll call that anywhere from, I'll say round 4 on, I feel like becomes mid-round. So four rounds would be 48th, or no.
Yeah, I got
the fourth round is any time over the 36th pick, I guess. So I guess these guys qualify as mid-round. So it would start at Terry McLaurin at 39th. Mike Evans is 37th. I'll go a little deeper than that just for the sake of it.
Go deep.
Shut the fuck up. I mean, is it a cop-out to just say the rookies, Tet McMillan and Travis Hunter? Because that's...
No.
I'll give a shout-out to them, and then I'll say the other guy who I'm really coming around on lately, and I might regret this, is George Pickens. I love all those guys.
Here we go, GP Glazer.
I'm about to glaze GP. No, I think the upside for George Pickens is just so clear. I mean, that offense is going to have to score points. They don't have a run game to speak of. I really like it, especially with where you can get him in drafts.
Xavier Worthy's kind of a cheap answer, and I don't think he'll necessarily be in this kind of... So I'll say Cortland Sutton here.
That's fair. We'll do like 2 more here. Do you think the Chiefs go 16-1 with their only
This guy
loss
asked us a
versus
lot
the
of times.
Bills?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't.
I don't believe that the Chiefs, who went 15-2 last year, winning a million games by the skin of their teeth, are going to go better than that.
They lost
with
because the
just
Raiders
general
had diarrhea on the middle of the
regression.
field.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously an element of saying a team knows how to win close games, and then there's the logical perspective of they got fucking lucky like 3 times.
They will still be very. They will be a very good team. Don't get
great.
me wrong.
They'll be great,
Mahomes,
but
go.
no, 16-1, no. And let's do one last question. Let's see. Hold on. This is interesting. Sawyer said Higgins or Harris at the end of draft. Sawyer, I want to give you an opportunity to clarify. I'm thinking this is Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris if we're talking end of draft.
If that is the case, I like Trey Harris just because we talked about with no Mike Williams, the competition. Jaden Higgins is what Sawyer has said. I'll go Harris.
I'll go Higgins. I like Higgins. I'm actually
always the contrarian.
I know. I think he's got the higher ADP. I might be wrong on that. I'm not sure. No, Higgins. Pat, I've started to come around a little bit on the Texans. I've come around a little bit on the Texans' offense. I don't necessarily know if it. I don't know. Their defense is good, so I guess I believe they're.
I'm gonna keep coming. Skip's gonna continue to come.
We used to have that as a sound on the show.
Why do we not?
Hold on. Do I? Yeah, I think I deleted it because we weren't using it.
Start using it.
Sorry. No, I like Jaden Higgins because I think the concern, obviously, with the Texans that I've said many, many times is the offensive line, and I think that's going to be a detriment to them in a lot of ways this year. But they have changed things up enough on offense with new offensive line coach, a couple of new pieces on that O-line, even if they might not be the best talent. We've seen teams kind of put together just this mishmash of guys and make a decent line if you can get the right coaching out of it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like the Commanders weren't projected to have a good line last year, and they ended up with one that was good enough, and then one of the most exciting teams in football. The reason I've come around a little bit on the Texans is just because of Nick Caley. I just really like him as an offensive coordinator, and I think they're going to figure things out enough to be competent on offense. And Jaden Higgins, I think is going to be the number 2 target on that team. Like, I don't see Christian Kirk out targeting him. I don't see Dalton Schultz out targeting him. I don't see any of the running backs out targeting him. So if I want to take a shot on the Texans offense, getting back to more closer to year 1 CJ Stroud, where Nico Collins and Tank Dell were both awesome, say hello to new Tank Dell as far as usage is concerned. I mean, completely different type of player, but as far as how he's going to be involved, I'll take Jaden Higgins just because I think Quentin Johnson might be annoying with the Chargers.
The Juice Man said T. Higgins and Kamala Harris. I'm going Kamala in that situation. Join our Vampire League Kamala too, by the way. That was a conversation Brandon and I had.
Yes, it was. No context given.
Yes.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of Brand Coverage. Guys, thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next time. For Pat, I'm Bran, and we will catch you later.
Good night.